right, welcome. Welcome to our Q&A session. And today's topic was all about how to accelerate your progress by applying correct practice technique, how to develop positive habits, positive muscle memory to create habitual ability. And how, when you do this, your practice accelerates and starts to accelerate by a multiplication factor, and how things just get better and better and better. So I'm going to share my screen on this one. This is the first question, and some of these aren't perfectly in order, but the question is, what are modified vowels? So what are modified vowels? Modify means to basically to change, to adjust. All right, and as we go up in pitch, and well, let me backtrack. So you don't always need to modify vowels. Modifying the vowels depends very much on what kind of a sound you want to make. Okay, so if you cannot modify a vowel and the sound you'll still have a sound, right? But is that the sound you want to make? So if there are different ways that the vocal folds interact with the air inside the chamber, our vocal tract, and depending on the sound you want to make, the vocal folds need to behave differently. Sometimes if you want a light sound, the vocal folds are not touching for a very long period of time, right? Closed quotient versus open quotient, the amount of time the vocal folds stick together, okay? But if you want to have a loud sound, let me just try that on an A, for example. Breathy sound, not a lot of contact between the vocal folds. You don't need to modify that vowel on an E to get that sound. Clearing it up, it's going to get a bit louder, but it still has this soft, falsetto, heady quality. But if you want that to get louder, now we're entering into a little bit more of a metallic sound, into what people might call a mix or curbing or light metallic sound. Now that's going to have a volume limit. If I try and get louder, it's not going to work. Okay, because we need to change the space on the inside so the vocal folds can react to that. So we're going to change the vowel towards an A, and then listen to get louder. Now I move the vowel, the pure E. I'm turning down my mic so I don't overload it. Moved it towards an A. It still sounded like an E, not the pure E, but we create a little bit more space, changed the shape inside, moving it towards the A, and now it's getting louder. So we have to change that shape and slide the vowel to its optimal position for the sound we want to make. So vowel modification simply means changing the vowel to adjust for the sound you want to create. And there are pretty specific rules for that. And you can look at the natural, frequency of the vowel. You can look on, but the general rule for contemporary singing is the E is going to go towards the A. Okay? And this is the same for men and women. Now, if you're going for operatic singing, it's a slightly different sound. The rules are very similar, but also slightly different. Very different for men and women, actually. Okay, so vowel modification is all about how you need to adjust and change vowels to create healthily the sound you want to create. And that sound you want to create depends on the style. And it depends really on you. Okay? So in the live stream, we were just talking about more of a belty sound, right? And if you want to do a higher belt, you're going to have to shift that E towards the A. How much you have to do it depends on a little bit on your skill level and your natural ability. I always have to shift my E towards the A when I'm belting. Some people get so good at it, you will never hear the difference. But there are also within the word and the term belting, there are a lot of nuances. You know, some people consider mix belting. Some people only consider belting the there's no business like. So what you consider belting is ultimately the sound you want to create, and you need to know where to go with the vowel on that. It's a very very important topic, but I don't have time to get into all the details today, obviously in a quick Q&A. So in contemporary singing, I'll just say for belting, pop singing, the E is going to go towards the A. Okay? So that's vowel modification. Okay, the next question. Let me share my screen with you. Next question. How do you work specifically on general intonation for a singer that doesn't know what a scale is? I have to think about this one. How do you work specifically on general intonation for a singer that doesn't know what a scale is? All right. Intonation is about hearing a pitch and for me, intonation is about hearing a pitch and being able to reproduce that pitch. Okay, that's what intonation is for me. Now, if a singer doesn't know what a scale is, any kind of scale, that's a scale, you know. There are lots of different kinds of scales, major, minor, etc., etc. But so if a singer doesn't know what a scale is, right, then I'm concerned in developing intonation about hear and repeat. There's a lot of factors that go into that, because most people I find that have good speech intonation, that speak in a normal speech melody, they're quite capable of reproducing patterns and pitches they hear. Most of the intonation problems people have, and this is ignoring, you know, the whole area of developing that skill, are having to do with things that just aren't working technically. Because again, if I want to go hey and I go hey, it's not going to be quite on pitch because I'm not technically executing that sound correctly, and it's going to be very difficult to be on pitch or have good intonation. So I find that the majority of intonation problems are actually technical problems, that the singer is not asking their voice to do what it's designed to do for the sound they're trying to create. And when you solve those, ultimately intonation always improves, in my experience. So I don't know if that answered the question. How do you work specifically on general intonation for teach? I specifically will just do call and repeat. Oh! Repeat. Oh! Train on individual notes, you know, in somewhere that's easy for them. E, E, have the singer just repeat individual pitches, and then I will put them in a chain, like hello you, put it in maybe more of a conversational form, and then you can create scales out of that. So I really just start with call and repeat, that have them repeat the sound, what they hear. And then we balance that, because most of the intonational problems I find have to do with technique. Now there are some people where if I sing up the octave to sing at their pitch to make it easier for them, they'll sing up an octave. So it's a lot about finding out how is the person, how are they responding? Are they, when they hear a sound, sometimes I've even had it, I've sung up an octave and they've sung down the octave. So how this hear and repeat is working, really it has to do with the individual. So I try and meet the individual at their level and then work from there, starting with something with non-scales and then showing them how these individual notes become a scale. So, and that can be for people that really have the a challenge of hearing and being able to repeat. I want you to know that you can learn it, but it is a lot of work, and you have to be very consistent in your practice, and you have to give it some time. But for the majority, the vast majority of singers that are having intonation problems, it's with the technical execution. And there's also the element that the sound you produce in your head, you might not be getting all of the frequencies out, but what you're getting on inner feedback, it may all be there. Okay, that happens with a lot of singers. They are hearing themselves on pitch in their head, but not all of the frequencies of that sound are exiting their body. So, and then you're going to hear that singer like on the bottom part of a note. Does that make sense? So helping the singer realize that, and it's frightening. I mean, if you tell any singer you're flat, panic mode, right? Right? You have bad intonation. Your intonation is not very good. Well, the first thing that's going to do is send the singer into panic mode. All right, and then it's just going to get worse. So instead of that, just tell them some of these frequencies aren't coming out. I'm just hearing the lower half of the note, and let's work on that. And that way, suddenly, their intonation improves, like with Milena today. It wasn't clean the first time or two, but we made some technical adjustments, and then it was there, right? Not really a big issue. So that's why I chose to focus in on not focusing on the intonation, but looking for the solution to allow her a voice to come out on pitch, because it was pretty clear to me she doesn't have any pitch or intonation issues. It was just a technical issue. Next question. How do you work on intonation with singers who don't know what a Western scale is? Okay, well, I would try and meet that singer where they are. All right? Again, it's kind of repetitive. What is the real intonation issue? Is it they're not able to repeat what they hear? Or is it a technical issue? And if they're not familiar with Western music intervals, maybe we start with their common intervals and then introduce them to maybe Western intervals. So same process. Really, first of all, looking to see, is there a serious inability to reproduce what they hear? And that is a topic in and of itself. But like I said, in my experience, it's less than 1% of the people actually have that issue. It's just mostly a technical issue. So I just try and meet them where they're at and then expand from there. So my answer to that again is I will try and meet the singer where they're at. Meet them with the scales they're familiar with, and then introduce them to Western style intervals. Really all the scale is different notes in a different rhythmical pattern with different intervals, right? Okay, that's really simple, but there are some established scales. So if a singer is not familiar with that because they're from a different country where those intervals aren't common and those scales aren't common, meet them where they're at and slowly teach them about that. And again, about intonation, it's less than 1%, in my personal experience, less than 1% of people actually have difficulties repeating adequately or accurately what they hear. It's almost always a technical issue. So I really focus more on, before I worry about intonation too much, I focus on the technical execution, and that resolves 99% of intonation problems. That's been my personal experience. And I'm not ignoring the truth that there are some people that just have difficulty reproducing what they hear, and that needs to be treated as a specific skill, coordination, training issue. The next question, what about singing only the vowels, then adding consonants? Okay, this question comes out of a live coaching session. 1 second here. And I want to make the point that there is no one correct way to help everybody, and there are many ways to help in each individual. And by singing only vowels and then adding consonants, that's an excellent tool to train and develop legato, absolutely. I just chose to go a different way in the live coaching today. And like I said, it's not because the other one's not valid. It probably would have worked as well. I imagine that would have worked. But just remember there are many, as they say in English, many ways to skin a cat. All right, so there are many approaches that work. And basically, I just go with my gut instinct in the moment. And if that doesn't work, I quickly change. And maybe that's another thing I would have changed to, is just singing the vowels. So there are a lot of tools out there. Don't get stuck thinking there's only one that works. There are many different tools that do work. Next question is, who brought up the legato topic, Philippe or Milena? I missed that part. I brought up the legato topic, and I could have called it a different name. All right, I just chose to use the word legato because I think that it's a topic that is often misunderstood by singers. You know, I was screamed at for years to sing more legato, more legato. It's not legato enough. And I'm like, what the hell does that mean? What do you mean? It would drive me crazy. All right, but I finally figured out for me what that means. And it just means producing consistent sound with few interruptions, keeping it smooth, elongating the phrase, elongating the sound. Because I used to think it just meant when you had the long phrases. But it doesn't. Legato is a quality. It's a quality in your singing. And if you look, it's a quality that almost every great singer has in common. Whether it's a pop singer, you know, you can even have legato in rap. You don't think that's true, but you can. You know, it's just a consistent sound. And keeping that sound flowing and consistent through fast texts or through long phrases, because it's the quality. It's the quality. Legato is a quality and not an actual thing. Oh, I hope people don't hate me for saying that. But most things that describe singing are qualities. Dynamics, piano, forte, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, these are qualities. It doesn't mean piano, sing as soft as you can. Forte doesn't mean sing as loud as you can. It's a quality, okay, that the music, then the composer wants. Because if you sing, you know, it's just easy, ah, can be considered quite soft in comparison to ah, ah, would be more dramatic, more forte. It's a quality. Ah, could be considered more soft. Ah, definitely more soft, but it's not as soft as I can sing. Ah. Does that make sense? So within the song, dynamics have context and their qualities. Within a song, legato or staccato are qualities that the composer wants. Okay? Lento, noi, mobile. It would be very staccato and doesn't really work. It's not what the composer was after. Okay? So, thoughts on legato. Why work on legato when the intonation is completely off? Intonation trumps everything. So, in my opinion, I think we've discussed this, intonation is very important, yes, but intonation in and of itself can be corrected through good singing. So if I start getting a singer focusing on the fact that they're not in tune, they're just going to get worse. They're just going to get worse. They're going to try, and then your whole session's going to become, as a teacher, your whole session's going to become about getting them to repeat a note on pitch on a certain vowel. Well, that's never going to happen if their execution isn't correct. Okay, so singing technically correct solves almost all of intonation problems. That's my personal experience, and that's why I chose not to address intonation as an issue, because for me it wasn't an issue. It was the technical execution was causing the intonation problem. Oh no, I didn't record that. Erickson, you're recording. It makes me think I'm recording. Okay, fast version. Next, same question. Why work on legato when the intonation is completely off? Intonation trumps everything. Okay, as I said, intonation problems for me are, for 99% of the problem, is a technical execution problem. I didn't start working with Milena on her intonation because if I had have told her she's off pitch, she may have become completely focused on the fact that she's not on pitch, stressed out, and that would have become the whole session, and then we wouldn't have gotten as far as we did so quickly. So for me, the intonation itself wasn't an issue. It was the technical execution causing the intonation problem. When you sing technically correct, when you're asking your instrument to do what it's designed to do to produce that sound, your intonation will be perfect. And if it's not, then we have that intonation skill that needs to be developed. But for the vast majority of singers, it's really their intonation issues are about poor technical execution. Next question. Possibly stand up to sing so as to breathe freely. Okay, this is a good point. Yes, that would have helped. But in the session we were doing, I was mostly wanting to focus just on two things. So yes, it's always a better idea to stand up and sing, because most of the time we're not going to be singing sitting down, right? And when we're sitting down, the way we breathe is slightly different. So yeah, definitely, if you're going to breathe more freely when you're standing up. And another great breathing trick to find where that natural position is, lay down on your back and with your feet flat on the floor, with your knees bent. This lines up all of your anatomy for good breathing, and then observe the position of your body and how you breathe in that position. So that's just a side tip. And when you stand up, and even when you're sitting down, you want to try and find that position. But I agree, it's much easier to breathe correctly and sing correctly standing up. All right. You know what, I'm going to add on to that question, just because there are a lot of people out there singing in choir and in choir rehearsals, and choirs don't rehearse standing up the whole time. They're sitting down a lot of the time. They do stand up, but a lot of the time, you can't stand up for a 4-hour choir rehearsal. So it's up and down, up and down. So when you're sitting down, you can still maintain a good breathing position. Just finding that and knowing what that is and maintaining that is possible sitting down, but most of the time we're not going to be performing sitting down. How do you know which vowel sound is good to modify for the commercial sound? This is a very important question, and it would take more time than I have right now. So for your commercial sound, it really depends. First of all, what does that mean to you? We have a vast variety of commercial sounds, okay? But generally, when people are talking about that, they're generally thinking about more of a pop belt mix type sound. And there your E is going to go to your A. Your O is going to move toward, depending on the word, is going to move towards an A. Your A is going to move towards an A, and it all depends on pitch. So it's a sliding scale for different vowels and different words on different pitches depending on the sound you want to make. So yes, it's a little bit more complex than just a quick short answer. So I would recommend that this first of all, I want you to know that there are clear rules that exist, and you can even look them up online. And I do cover that in my course, but you need to get with a teacher that works with vowel modification. And vowel modification is a big part of the traditional school of singing. It was a big part of the Italian school of singing, big part of speech level singing, a big part of singing today. You can look at, on a spectrograph, the frequencies, fundamentals, harmonics, the things that are created there with various vowels on different pitches, and there is a scale. It's quite clear on where you need to go. And at the same time, it's also individual, because each individual has their own internal dynamics and their sliding scale. Where does that individual need to go? So I think that vowel modification, you can do a lot of self-help by understanding the overview of the rules, but you really need to work with a personal coach that understands this, because you need the feedback. You're going to get the internal feedback. Okay, this one feels better, this one feels worse. But the biggest issue I see with vowel modification in my coaching is that singers don't want to accept it. They don't want to sound weird. That's normal, right? You don't want to sing me and we'll sing man, right? You don't want to sing man instead of me. People don't want to do it because they don't want to sound weird. But in the right context, it works. Okay? Let me think. So if we have, for example, The Show Must Go On by Queen, and I try and sing that, I don't remember. I'm just going to pick a B flat. Now, if I want a medium loud, the show must go on, kind of a mixed, light metallic, light belt sound, I don't really have to modify the vowels so much. But if I really go for the pure vowel, the show must go on, it's not going to sound very great. The show, I'll probably flip on that O. The show, or strain on the O. So it's got to go, the show must go on. Like British speak. The show must go on. The show must go on. And then suddenly it sounds normal. And it feels good and it's easy. If you're going to take that further to a loud volume, the show, ow, you're going to have to move towards those full metallic belting vowels, ah, right? The show. The show must go on. Now you're going to get more of a rock feel to it. And it's more bitey and intense. So that's how vowel modification works. It really depends on the sound you're going for and knowing which vowels and vowel choices create that sound at what volume level. That's kind of funny. Let's talk about that. So the question is, what kind of voice is he using? Head voice or mixed voice? Now I'm guessing this is when I was working with Milena. And yeah, good question. So Milena, I'm going to take yourself off of mute for me. Do you remember what part of the song were we singing?
We were singing at the start and then the chorus.
Yeah, Welcome to My Candy Store, or what was that?
Yes, step into my candy store.
Step into my candy store. Yeah, so how does it go? Can you sing the melody for me one more time?
Step into my candy store.
Okay, step into my candy store. And yeah, so I was singing, step into my candy store. It's pretty high for a guy, right? So, step into my. Listen to the vowel modification. Step into my can. That's like B flat to an E, right? And the E flat is nasty for guys. If you transition it, I would consider that more of a belt than a mix. Candy store, but the day store is what I would consider more of a mix. Okay, so I'm singing both, and I'm not. If I do it in head voice, it would sound like this: step into my candy store, candy store. It'd be head voice, kind of like the Mickey Mouse voice. Step into my candy store, So adding the mix is giving a little bit more volume, getting a little bit more vocal fold compression, using twang. Step into my candy store, but not trying to push the volume. And if I add a little bit more volume and take the vowel more towards the A and the A, it'll get more into the belt sound. Step into my candy store. So those are some sound examples. So I wasn't singing it in mix, but I'm just giving you some general how I describe those sounds. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Well, and this question could have been towards what kind of voice Josephine was singing in. So now you're going to get both. Let's ask Josephine. How would you describe the sound you were singing, Josephine?
I would say it's a mix. I know I would say that a head mix is closer to me, but I think I was now trying to be more in a chest mix. But yeah, a mix for me, definitely.
Yeah. Sure. I would say yeah. And what do we mean by mix? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, God, it's hard, but I mean, in a way, it feels like, yeah, the two voices coming together and sort of like, or I don't know, can you say like the vocal folds, like how much they are engaged, or how do you anatomically describe a mix? That's actually a good question.
well, anatomically, it's hard to give an answer that suits everything, because to be specifically exactly correct, you really have to have a camera looking down the individual singer's throat and monitor their exact sounds on a spectrograph. So it's hard, but generally what's going on in mix is you're having a good coordination and give and take of the CT, cricothyroid, and TA, thyroid arytenoid muscles. They do the trade-off, right? So the more the one is active, it changes the sound color. So generally in mix, those two are working really well simultaneously. Also, something to look for in mix is it's not a loud sound. It's never going to be a loud sound, and it has to do with that muscle balancing. Because usually, to get a really loud sound, your vocal folds are going to have to resist the airflow more, and they're going to have to become stiffer and in order to do that, and they're going to stick together longer. And in a mixed voice doesn't have that impact level. It doesn't need to create high volumes. So you're thinking usually mix is between a 3 and 6, probably 4 to the ideal mix volume is like around 4 and a 5. It just stays the same volume the whole time. But you do have some range of volume within there. But you're never going to get max volumes in a mix. Do you want to sing that section for us one more time?
Sure. Let me jump up, as we just talked about the importance of standing. But yeah, can you give me an A? Sorry. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I saved every letter you wrote me. From the moment I read them, I knew you were mine. You said you were mine. I thought you were mine.
Good. So if we talk about that section, I would say most people would say you're using head voice until the very end there.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Sure. Yeah. Sure.
We're not getting super specific, but that's what most people would consider a head voice until you got to the end. Then I'm here, and then you were mine. Then you gave it a little bit of what some people would say was going into chest voice.
Oh yeah.
Are very broad, and depending on who you talk to, you might get the M1, M2 people joining in. You might get the neutral curbing people joining in. You might get the TA, CT dominant people joining in. There's a lot of different terminology out there for these sounds, but generally, Now let's go on to the next section, because that one you were doing
Oh yeah.
that section in there.
Yeah. You and your words flooded my senses. Your sentences left me defenseless. You built me palaces out of paragraphs. You built cathedrals.
Great, nice job. So there we got different things going on there as well. But you built cathedrals was definitely different from most of the rest of that. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. It was chestier. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what I think people are asking. What's she using? Because you're using both. You're in and out, which is what people want. It's a beautiful sound. See if we can do that all in a slightly, just give it start off on the U with a little bit more volume and then keep it there. You, mana, mana, mana.
Oh, yeah. You and your words flooded my senses. Your sentences left me defenseless. You built me palaces out of paragraphs. You built cathedrals.
Great, nice job. Now just one more time for fun. Now this is definitely less back and forth between head and chest, very, very broadly. We're in that middle zone where people are going to start saying mix on the way to chest, a little bit more metal in there. Now do what we did today in the session. Go ahead and breathe through your nose. Find the expansion. La, da, 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 and continue that sound going on. Make it this nice stretchy sound.
Sure. You and your words flooded my senses. Your sentences left me defenseless. You built me palaces out of paragraphs. You built cathedrals.
Good, very nice, very nice. So now it's actually even more clear when you're doing chest to head. You're keeping them similar in volume level. Now take the beginning up a notch in volume, so we land with everything in chest.
Oh yeah. You and your words flooded my senses. Your sentences left me defenseless. You built me palaces out of paragraphs. You built cathedrals.
Yeah, excellent work. Excellent work. Bravo, bravo, bravo. So that's nice demonstration. So you've got one phrase in there, sentences, what's that?
Your sentences left me defenseless.
Okay. Is English your first language?
No.
And so right there I'm hearing it's not your first language. You're getting a lot of chewy jaw tension. So your sentences build me defenses. Just go let your jaw be a little bit more loose and just go through the word a little bit more with the voice.
Yeah. Your sentences left me defenseless.
Good. And so an American, for example, isn't going to say sentences left me defenseless. We're going to say sentences left me defenseless. So make the D sentences, more of a D, the T, instead of sentences, sentences with a little low D, and make that F defenses. Bring it down to a little baby lowercase f. Sentences left me defenses.
Your sentences left me defenseless.
Does that feel better to sing?
Yeah, definitely. It's smoother.
Nice work, nice work. So it's more smooth, it's easier to sing, and that's really how a native speaker is. Well, I can't really even say that because I correct native speakers on that all the time. So we're a little bit too precise in your pronunciation, and the reason why the t and the f up there are going to interrupt is because they require extra airflow. And in order to make those sounds, you have to let out more airflow through your vocal folds.
Mm.
So you're going whoop, 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 whoop. And so we want to keep those little interruptions small.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll also keep you in more of the same setting. But yeah,
Yeah.
excellent job. Thanks for the demonstration, Josephine.
Thank you.
And somebody put in there probably more chest mix than head, and other people said the straw exercise would help. Breathe into relaxation, not tension, support. So there's a lot of comments. Yeah, so nice. It's nice to read comments with people thinking, and I think everybody should just view that as, positive, constructive ideas. Thanks again to Josephine and Milena for singing. The course is going to be fantastic. I'm super excited about it. We're going through it now, and it's actually it's huge. I've spent probably 70 hours in front of a camera and editing it, all the graphics. It's going to be really, really nice and look great. And the object is, obviously my main focus is to help singers everywhere save time and money and frustration, because a lot of the frustrations we go through, we don't need to go through if we have the right information and the right coaching. And also it's going to be a great tool for teachers, because like I said, if you do any coaching at all, I mean, how many times have you repeated yourself in the last year? Right? A ton of times. Now, if you had a resource where that you could use as a tool that is going to teach singers correct principles, and then you can go ahead and work most of your coaching time on helping those singers on the application and refining that, it's just going to save you so much time. I just got to the point where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to say this ever again. We all start at the beginning with every student, but instead of wasting time in the sessions, where students might lose interest over time, is my experience, because there's so much education they actually need, right? If they're spending 20 minutes out of a 30-minute session just on getting instruction, the actual singing time is like 5 to 10 minutes. After time, they're like, I'm never going to get this. It's just too much. Whereas if you can have them doing that learning on their homework before they get there, then you can actually maximize the efficiency of your session. And what happens? Your client's happier. They're going to start improving faster, and guess what? That's going to up your client retention. And also, the word of mouth is going to be good for you too, because they're getting better results. So I'm hopeful that not only singers will find this useful, but it will save a lot of teachers' time. Having a nice resource that really just helps people. So it goes through some anatomy stuff. Goes through a lot of anatomy. But so when we talk, and there's different skills. So the practice technique is going to be part of it. Also, emotional layering. I'm really big on emotional layering, because I believe that I call it emotional layering instead of interpretation, because I think the most important part about interpretation is the layering of your sound with emotion. Our vocal imprint takes on completely different spectrum when we're connected with emotion, when we're interpreting a song, and that's normal. And the human ear hears it and recognizes it like that. It's just normal. If you hear me in speech every day, right now I'm speaking calmly, you recognize that. If I'm like, oh my, yeah, and I really want to do this, and I got to click on this button, all of a sudden you hear stress in my voice, right? And the same thing is going to be with singing. You hear the sincerity, you hear the love, you hear the passion, you hear the pain. We don't have to the words aren't as important as the sound. Right? That's why anywhere in the world, if you hear somebody going, you're going to be thinking sound, complaining, something's really not that great. And if you hear somebody going, oh yeah, whoa yeah, they're happy. So the words are regardless. So emotional layering is educating people on the skill of how to not just interpret a song, but to using techniques that actually have been shown to help you find emotion in yourself, and that translate for the listener as emotion. So we're going to have from working from the inside out, that's the extensive process. Working from the outside in, if I look at you like this, what do you think I am? Happy, right? If I look at you like this, you're going to think surprise. If I look at you like this, kind of displeasure. So there are also some facial expressions that are universal no matter where you go in the world. If you go into the jungle and you can only communicate through facial expressions, if you know these things, you're going to communicate effectively. There's a research on that. And the one part of the course that I'm going to add is, still haven't got that in there yet, is physical movement and motion. Certain movements and gestures actually psychologically in your brain create emotion. So there's a lot of tools in this emotional layering element to help singers connect. And when you do, and this is my experience as well, when you do, all of your singing technique gets better. It's like magic, because it taps into your instinctual knowledge of how to produce sound. We already know how to do this, and we do it every day. So when you tap into your instinctual knowledge on that emotional level, you're not only tapping into your subconscious ability, you're communicating to other people's subconscious. It's extremely powerful. And I have actually know one coach, all he does is work with people on this. He doesn't teach any other singing technique. And he gets amazing results. It's very, very rare that he doesn't get perfect results. Okay? But there's more to singing to that for me. So then we talk about airflow control. I'm going to go through. See you, Pato. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to go into the airflow control. First, we're going to go through the anatomy. How do we breathe? How do we get air in and out? And then we'll get into the technique. And by showing anatomy, whenever I refer to it again and again in the course, people are going to know the entire anatomy of respiration. Not the entire anatomy. I can't say that because it's very complicated. So I focus on the muscles we have conscious control over. There's a lot of involuntary actions. So we only need to be concerned about muscles that we can consciously manipulate. Everything else, it's a waste of time. It's going to happen as one system. And then dynamic movement potential is something I invented these words. It's a mixture out of what we need in singing and also looking at sports science and how muscles work. So there's concentric, eccentric contractions, and I've gone through this in my lifetime. From when I was first starting, in athletics, they would have you bounce up and down to stretch. And that quickly became no. You just go down there and you hold for a long time, and then you go on. And now they don't do that really anymore either. They do what they call dynamic movement, dynamic stretching. And they found that if you keep the muscle in motion, in the sustained motion like Tai Chi, for example, you actually prepare the muscles better to work. And the performance of the athlete goes up through dynamic warm-up as opposed to stretching, which actually stretches and weakens the muscle fibers before they perform. So it's evolved a lot. Sports science has evolved a lot. And singing for me is an activity. It's in motion. So when I say dynamic movement potential, I'm talking about using the muscles, all the little intricate muscles, keeping them in a state of dynamic movement potential, a state of readiness. And so we just go through exercises on how to monitor that, how to look for that inside your body and your singing, because that keeps singing fluid. A lot of what Josephine experienced today, there's a huge difference. It's like a 1% or a 0.5% adjustment that pays you like 200% dividends. It's not a big adjustment, but the returns are so big because everybody can hear it immediately and you feel it immediately. And by far the most complex part of the course is sound design. Because we know it's just simple. The vocal folds don't make nothing we hear sounds like what is produced here. What's produced here is a v, a buzz on different pitches. Okay? And what happens from there up on the way out creates style. Every single style of singing is only based on the shape from the lips down to the vocal folds. That's it. That's how speech is. That's how language is. Every human being is walking around the planet going sounds ridiculous, but the shapes and activities created above that creates language, creates singing, creates different styles, creates different genres. So understanding that, and then I'll go through the entire anatomy of from here all the way down. So little by little, and repeat that over and over and over. So you'll know the entire anatomy without even trying, because through just repetition and graphics. And then the singer really has control over their vocal identity, over their personal singing style. If they want to sing opera, if they want to sing pop, jazz, whatever it is, when they understand this shaping and how it works. And that includes vowel modification, that includes twang, that includes resonance, that includes creating space, narrowing spaces. All of those things gives you complete control over your sound. And so those are the 4 activities of singing. And the magical part about them is, in my experience, if you improve one, they all improve at the same time. So by going through and improving one at a time, you're not neglecting any area. It's all getting better. And that's this power of multiplication we talked about today. It's pretty logical, right? If you work out your back and you're doing pull-ups, and you've only ever worked out your back, you're going to do quite a few pull-ups. Now if you start working out your biceps and your chest, guess what? You're going to do more pull-ups without doing anything else, because every improvement has an effect on the entire system, right? And then the magical thing is, okay, then now, for example, Josephine and Milena, they're going to work this into their muscle memory, into their technique, and guess what? Then they can concentrate on new things. Where if you never fix that issue, you never get the luxury of being able to focus in on one thing at a time, because you're always dealing with everything. And I think that's a source of a lot of frustration for singers and teachers too. Right? So I just, since you all stayed on a little bit longer, I just want to give you a little bit more detailed information of what's coming up in the course. It's great. There's a lot of videos, really nice graphics. You can read it. We're going to have subtitles. Also, I'm going to include some examples. So I'll teach part of the course, and then I'll have a video of me coaching somebody on that technique, so you can see how it works in practice. And then we'll do, like I said, every month, the 4th week of the month, we plan to do a couple live streams, a couple different times for each one of the 4 activities of singing, so people can tune in and ask questions and get coaching, to have that element. Because I firmly believe nobody can make it on their own. We all need a mentor, we all need a coach, everybody. And I mean, look, do we have any professional athletes out there not having constant coaching? I mean, they've got everything. I mean, they've got a dietitian, they've got a physiotherapist, they have a chiropractor, they have a doctor, they have a movement analysis, they have a technical coach. It's because it's big money, It's big money. But most, in my 30-year career, very, very few singers have a singing specialized masseuse with them working on their neck and back and throat before they sing. Very few of them have their vocal coach with them that they warm up with. I know a couple that actually did like a distance online session, and I'll do that with clients as well to get them warmed up and help their confidence. And very fewer yet have somebody that actually knows about singing sitting in the audience taking notes. It's because there's not the same level of money in it, and nobody's really done that before. Now, if we get to the big pop stars, some of them do that. Some of them take a coach online, or some of them have fly in the coach for a couple weeks. And a lot of them have, somebody coming in doing cranial facial massage work and things like that while they're on tour. But now you're talking about just a level that normal people can't really afford, And I would love to have had my team with me all the time, but I was never making, performers don't make that much money. Very few do. You have your elite opera echelon that makes $20,000 and $30,000 per performance. They might be able to do that, but they don't have a lot of performances. It's nothing compared to what a pop singer or a touring artist has. They're doing 100 shows, 150 shows a year, some of them. An opera singer maybe has 50 concerts a year. So you have a completely different level of ability. But I think it would be nice if producers and talent agents and lawyers started to manage their talent better, thinking long term, because they don't really think long term. They think, let's take advantage of what's there as long as it's there. And if they get lucky and the artist is smart and is managing themselves well and has a lifelong career, okay, then they make a lot of money. But usually they're just trying to cash in as much as they can until that singer breaks. That's the sad truth. Have a great day. Please feel free to reach out to me anytime.